What is going on, everybody? You are back with the Real Pat G, bringing you another MLB player prop video for today, June the 5th. I know I've been gone for a hot minute now, about a month. I've been just working on some things in my personal life, dealing with some tough things, but lately, the betting has been incredible. The Patreon has been going incredibly, and I wanted to resume doing videos for you guys because I feel like I'm doing a major disservice to the people who have committed and been followers of mine for a while now. And I'd like to get the page back to where it was last season, getting multiple thousands of views a day because people know this is somewhere they can come to get some solid looks. Um, so yeah, before we get into the plays today, we're only going to go over this once, really. If you're not signed up over at Sleeper, get signed up over at Sleeper. It's a mobile-only app, guys. They have the best lines out there. They only move and they only bump if the sports books themselves bump the lines, and it runs on a multiplier system. So instead of like having a set fixed pay, every prop has a different payout. And because it's mobile only, I can't really show it to you on the screen. So essentially you're betting though based on the line. So if there's juice on the line, say like you're betting like Jokic double, the likelihood is very high. Say it's like a minus 300 line, you're gonna get a multiplier on that bet that is appropriate for that Vegas line and the way they have it projected and the way the juice is on it. So it gives you the ability to pick your own risk tolerance and to get a fair line without being bumped up for no reason. And if it is bumped up, the multiplier is going to pay you higher and you're going to get the value for having that higher line. So really in every single way, as far as from the better's angle, Sleeper has it together and is the best site as far as being able to get ROI. So yeah, head over there, guys. It's in your what's it called? In your your app stores. Download it. Sign up. If you sign up with my promo code capital letters PG, you will get a 100% match on your first deposit up to $100. And most importantly, you will get exclusive access to my Sleeper Squad. The Sleeper Squad is basically a Discord within the app where myself and everybody else who is in there is able to share their plays. And when you share their plays, so say I share a play, a four-man play, every single person in the group gets to see my play, can then copy my play in the click of a button, a single click, copy it to their slip, and then tail. If they want to do so, they can do that for myself or anybody else in the group, and they can also share their plays if they have something they think could be helpful to everyone else. So what we got going on Sleeper, guys, is really great. So long story short, get signed up. It is the official app of the Patreon, and we have been rocking over there. So let's get into it. Today, we're looking at the June 5th slate. Not much going on. It's a very dry slate. It's a short slate. It's 8 games. Let's pull it up. Sorry, I'm not really prepared, guys. This is, like I said, first video back in quite some time here. I'm doing my best, though. I'm going to try to get myself through this first one, and from there, it's going to be nice and smooth. So today we got 8 games. We got the Rays and the Red Sox. I have high interest in that game. Tigers, Phillies, Royals, Marlins, the A's at the Pirates, Astros, Blue Jays, Brewers, Reds, Cardinals, Rangers, and last but not least, the Cubs and the Padres. Another game I have high interest in. All right, so I've got a few names pulled up that not necessarily are plays that I love, but they're plays that they were kind of brought to my attention for one reason or another. So let's start in the first game, Boston and Tampa Bay. Let's look at Shane McClanahan. So let's start over here with the Vegas line. So if we take a look at what McClanahan is coming out at for his strikeouts at 5.5 is minus 131 to the over. Okay, so we have a little bit of an overline. If we look at props.cash for a projection on McClanahan, so his strikeout projection, as you can see, guys, 5.8. So it's 0.3 over what is projected. He is on a 3-game streak. So they're basically projecting him for just shy of 6. So makes sense. The Vegas line is tight, but it has over money. Let's dig in. Shane has had an amazing season, okay? He had 9 against Boston last time he saw them, okay? 9 Ks against them. So if we look at the home log, he's perfect, guys. He's absolutely perfect this year. But today he is playing on the road, okay? And this is going to be very important. So he has had his only misses of the year come on the road, okay? Outside of these 4 games that he has hit against teams, admittedly, that are tough. Toronto, is a tough team to get strikeouts on, and he got there. Big key to this, though, is Shane being a left-handed pitcher, all right? Let's take a look at what Boston comes out as against the left-handed pitchers, how their strikeout percentage looks. So if we head over to a splits chart and we click our left-handed pitchers and we look up Boston, we're going to find them very, very, very low on the list. So they are the 10th most difficult team to strike out in the MLB versus lefties. So at a 21.4% strikeout rate, which isn't bad in the scheme of things, it's a little on the low side, but when you do look outside of these like outliers, Milwaukee, Minnesota, and the Giants, really, everything is pretty much 25% and under. And I think that's kind of normal. Even if you look at the right-handed pitching stats, it's the same thing, right around that 25% range is the top. So being at 21% isn't terrible, but it is, in comparison to the rest of the teams in the league, not very great. So Shane's matchup on paper isn't great today, but McClanahan does have a very, very solid-looking start to his season. Over the course of 5, 6, 8, 12 games, he's gone over 10. On the road, he's gone over in 4 of 6, all right? Not as much love on the road at a 67% hit rate. If we look at what lefties have done, lots of red X's, guys. Lefties against Boston have not been getting the job done. Tyler Anderson, 3 on the 4.5 line. Blake Snell, 5 on 5.5. Marco, 1 on 3.5. Matz, 4 on 4.5. Also worth noting, a lot of these names are trash, guys. A lot of these pitchers are trash. Outside of Snell, this is a pretty faulty list of pitchers right here. Wade Miley, Yusei Kikuchi, Bailey Falter, Dylan Lease, Steven Matz, Marco Gonzalez, and Tyler Anderson. They're not pitchers who I'd expect to have a lot of strikeouts, but it still is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. It is still 8 professional pitchers in a row that have been under their line. So regardless, bad or not, it's tough. It's a tough spot, and the numbers show that in the splits. But what Shane has been doing is the total opposite. So I do have interest in Shane and his over today. I'm not sure if it's something that is going to wind up making my Patreon plays, but it's really hard to fade something like that, guys, and especially knowing he did put up 9 last time. Let's take a look at the history for Shane McClanahan. So check this out, right? What you see at face value is not what you get. You got 9. The line is 5.5, guys, right? So 9 over, 6 over, 7 over, 3 for a miss, 8 over, 7 over. You're like, damn, he's almost perfect. All right, now take a look. Remember, he's on the road where he's not as good as at home, right? And this trend has been a trend for a while now, as you can see. So look at every game has been in Tampa except for one on 9/8 of 21, the game where he had 3 strikeouts and went under. The one road game that he's played against Boston, he missed the number, and he's hit every home game, and then you look at his season, and you look at his home games, he's hit everything, and then you look at his away games, and he's struggled. Well, that rings true again here. So again, I do have interest in Shane. I do have interest in his over as a lean for right now. But this is a little bit concerning, seeing that he struggles on the road, if he struggles. And in the past, he has had Boston's number totally had their number, except for the one game that they played in Boston. He was not able to get the job done. So, with that being said, I like Shane's as a lean to the over for right now. I'm going to have to do some more thinking on this one, a little more looking at who's in the starting lineup and stuff. We have other players to look at for right now, but he is somebody who should be a player of interest to you today. Whether you decide to take an over, an under, or a fade is completely up to you, because it's not something you can't. I like plays that you can't poke any holes in. This, you can poke some obvious holes in, and it's a trend that we're able to poke holes at. Like, it's not just one thing or the other. It is a trend of road issues versus a Boston team who doesn't strike out to lefties. That's a lot of things that are concerning. So that's what we got for Shane McClanahan. Let's move to the other side of that game with Brian Bayo. All right, so Brian Bayo, not a pitcher who I necessarily click on an awful lot, not a pitcher I necessarily trust an awful lot. When we're looking at his stats versus Tampa, he's played them. Let's do this right. Let's start with his Vegas line guys, because again, I have interest in his over as a lean. Brian Bayo. All right. So his strikeouts to the over coming at minus 149 to the over, plus 112 to the under. So there is some relatively heavy money to the over, which makes sense. Let's take a look at what he's projected for today on props.cash. And for what it's worth, the projections I don't take as like, you can't take them like the exact numbers, like, 5.8, he's going to get 6 today, or, 5 today. That's not the way you can really look at projections. I look at them more as like a baseline, where if I am expecting to see, let's say 6 out of him, and then props.cash tells me 4.25, I know that something's off. If they tell me something that near my projection where I thought he would be, then I use that as like, all right, it's a verification, or it's a way of confirming it for myself that I was on the right page. I thought Bayo would be right in the 4-5 range, a little bit sketchy maybe, just based on the other facts and little tidbits I found, and they're kind of saying the same thing. 0.24 over his line. There's not much pitcher love today. There's not a lot of pitchers that are really popping, so we got what we got to work with, but Bayo is on the over list, slightly over though. So this is another one that we're going to have to kind of dissect, and isn't necessarily a clear over or a clear under. So again, let's dig into what Brian Bayo has been doing this year. So all of his games, I was shocked when I saw this. He has very low-key been decent from the strikeout side of things, at least. Hasn't seen Tampa Bay yet this year, but right now he is 5 out of the last 6 and 6 of 8 on the season. That's a 75% hit rate. He is a right-handed pitcher facing Tampa Bay. Let's take a look. Tampa does strike out, regardless of what numbers they're going to show us here. Tampa Bay does strike out to righties and lefties, but let's take a look and see what this grades them out as. So the Tampa Bay Rays, okay, the 9th most difficult team to strike out in baseball against right-handed pitchers at 22.4%. Okay, again, it's low. They're difficult to strike out in the scheme of other teams in comparison, but they do have a 22% strikeout rate, guys. That's 1 in every 5, a little more than 1 in every 5 dropping to the K. In a game, generally, you say, on average, a pitcher who's going to pitch 6 innings is generally going to see around 25 batters, maybe, on average. So if you do those numbers, do that math, 22% of that, it's going to break down to like 5 point something, 5.25. So it'd be 5.25 strikeouts, basically right on the number. About a half a strikeout off of what they were talking about on props.cash. They said 4.75. I'm thinking it's probably a little closer to 5.25 mathematically. But let's take a look now at what he has done in the past with them. Brayan Bello. Okay. So at a 4.5 line, the most recent time he saw them, July 11th, 22, he did go over the line with 5. And then he also saw them 5 days earlier, and he went way under the line. What was the difference? Well, one game was away, one game was in Tampa, and he actually did better when he was away in Tampa Bay. Strange, but is what it is. Worth noting, but today they're in Boston. So the game that they played in Boston, he struggled. He struggled, really. He only pitched 4 innings, but maybe this was more common of Brayan Bello last year, pitching a little bit shorter outings, but you do see he was kind of rang up in both 6 and 7 hits, faced 21 batters in 4 innings only. So yeah, he definitely got rocked a little bit by Tampa both times. So again, it's a lean because Brian's numbers are strong, but Tampa's numbers are strong in their own right. So again, just like Shane, he has strong personal numbers, but Boston also has their strong side, and they're difficult to strike out. They have a good set of hitters, and the same thing applies for Tampa. But they do strike out, and as a lean personally, when everything has been kind of put into the bigger picture, I do lean to the over for Brayan Bello today. Again, this is probably not one that will make the Patreon because there are holes that can be poked in it, but this was one that did catch my attention early on, and I think something that should be looked into more. Some more digging, some weather, stuff like that, all sorts of stuff, all the little things that I'm not going to look at while we're recording here because this can't be hours long. So I do have a lean to the over. I think he's going to land real close. I think they set this line really well, and props.cash confirms that they set that line really well because they're only projecting him for 0.25 difference. They're, McClanahan 0.3 difference. All these lines are set pretty well. And again, it's a short slate today, so we don't have a lot to work with to begin with. Let's look at one that I feel a lot better about. This one is strong, but the variability in it for plays of this nature are just tough to work with for a better. Okay, so we're going to be looking at Alek Manoah. We're going to be looking at his walks, guys. So this is Manoah's walks on the season. Let's take a look at the Vegas line first. And for that, we're going to need to head over to DraftKings to look at walks. So if we head to the pitcher prop section and we go over to walks, scroll on down to Alek Manoah, and you will see he's minus 205 to the over. Strong money to the over, and it makes plenty of sense. I did look him up earlier. I'm not going to go through it again. He had one game in his history versus... where the hell did he just go? Where you at, Manoah? Right there. I'm sorry. Versus Houston, guys. He's only had one game versus Houston in his past, and he threw 6 innings and no ball. He had no walks. So it's a small sample size, and I'm going to kind of let it be just that. It's a small sample size. It's not worth a lot. I'm going to look at what he's done this year more so. So Vegas has him at 1.5, tons of money to the over, suggesting that he could be bumped, I guess. But I really doubt they're going to bump a walk line to 2.5 because I do think that's, even if they did bump to 2.5, guys, he's still hitting at an insane rate, right? So it only changes one game. But right now, Alek Manoah is 4, 5, 7, 9 of 12 on the year, guys, to the over. let's take a look. He is going to be playing at home today. So let's look at his home stats. Oof. Okay. So everything besides one game versus Baltimore where he hooked, it's not even like he threw no walks. He threw one. So he at least got a recorded walk in every game that he's played at home. This was the opening line, minus 198. Currently, it was like minus 200, whatever. So it hasn't moved much, but it has been strong. Money has stayed strong to the over. This is pretty suggesting that he will go over, but let's dig into the matchup a little more. Let's look at Houston versus right-handed pitchers and look at the walk rate for them. So, right-handed pitchers for Houston. Let's see where they pop at. So they're an 8. This is the walk rate right here, guys. So they're in an 8.3% walk rate. Let's see where that lines them for the against the rest of the MLB. Again, this is they walk at the eighth lowest rate in the MLB at 8.3%, which is a relatively low rate. But when you're looking at the whole scheme of the whole MLB, they're essentially leave the outlier on the bottom and the outlier on the top because they're both a little stretched from the rest. So we have like 11% on the high side and 7% almost on the low side. So it's a very small range from 7 to 8 to 10%, we'll call it. But they are at the bottom of that range as far as walks go. But when you're looking at somebody who is throwing walks at a rate like this, I don't think it really matters so much. I think that 8% is probably going to be skewed based on the pitchers they have seen in the past and their walk rates. I don't think anybody is really throwing walks like Alek Manoah is right now. I mean, look at these numbers, guys. 5, 4, 4, 7. Like, that's terrible. Terrible. So I'm leaning over on this one. This play probably will make it to the Patreon today. Like I said, the walk plays have high variability, though, guys. You could have a pitcher who is throwing like this, and today he could real easily have 0 walks. Very easily. We've seen it happen over the last week in the Patreon. I think we took 2 walk plays, and one of the 2 walks was like the most slam dunk play out there, and he went 0, just 0 walks. Just umpire makes a big deal, the way they call it. And I've seen a lot of very suspect calls by the umpires in the last 48 hours where balls are strikes and strikes are balls, and calling the perfect pitches on the corners, dotting those corners, and they're calling them balls. So it's going to make a big difference on who the umpire is, the way they call their strike zone. But on paper, statistically, Alek Manoah is an over for sure. You can't really fight that. Despite the walk rate of Houston, that's not something I'm really going to take with much more than like a grain of salt. So this is probably one of the stronger plays outside of the variability of it being high. But this is probably some of the most Loctite stats as far as what we're expecting. So another one I wanted to look at, though, well, there's 2 more. One is a play that intrigued me based on the Vegas line, but I don't know why in the world the Vegas line is what it is. We're going to do that one last. Let's look at Blake Snell next. I'm interested in his case. So let's take a look what they are giving this Vegas line currently, where this money is at. Actually, you know what? Let's take a look at the other side of this play instead. Let's look at Kyle Hendricks. I have interest in both players. I do, but I think this one is probably a little bit better of a play just due to the number. Excuse me, guys. So we got a minus 135 to the over, plus 102 to the under. And if we dig into Hendricks, he's only had a couple starts so far this year, so we have a very limited sample size, guys. This is what we've got on the year: 2 starts, 2 and 3 Ks. Today, his line is set at 3.5. It's not set at 2.5, despite what this is saying. That is the line that it opened at. It's already been bumped, and even at 3.5, the juice at minus 135, it is giving me a 1.68 multiplier, 1.68x, and that kind of is right in line with what the Vegas juice is suggesting. So this play, there's not a lot of info on, but if we look at what Kyle Hendricks has done to the Padres in the past, this was enough to get me to click the over button for sure. For at least, one lineup, let's say I play 10 lineups in a day, I would put him into 1 or 2. So starting as recently as last season, he had a couple games last season. So the line again is, let me just double check, 3.5. Yep. So he had games of 6, 7, 4, 5, 5, 7, a miss with 3, 5, 8, 8, 7, 8, 5. So this whole page, he has 1 miss back in 2018. So Kyle Hendricks has just really owned the Padres for whatever reason, whether it was home, away. Literally, it's every other game is like a home away game, so it's not shaded to one side or the other. The game he did miss, for what it's worth, was an away game. Today, Kyle Hendricks will be... Sorry, guys, give me 1 second. Kyle Hendricks will be on the road as well. So, for what it's worth, he hooked the one time he missed, and it was on the road. But I do think he finds... Oh, I'm sorry, this is his walks, guys. I knew that was backwards. Okay, this is his Ks on the year. Still only has 2 games. Still 1 out of 2. Knew that looked funny, though. But he has 5 and 3, okay? So that is a little better than 2 and 3. So with 5 and with 3, we're looking for 4 today. He has absolutely murdered them when it comes to the history. Vegas line suggests an over. Props.cash actually puts Kyle Hendricks as the most under-projected player of the day with a 3.5 line. They're projecting him closer to 5 strikeouts. So for what that's worth, literally a 100% rate, which is not... I don't know what they base that on. The adverse opponent, maybe... I don't know, because he's not 100% lifetime, so I don't know what that would be. But nonetheless, we've seen the stats, very convincing that he is able to go over 3.5 strikeouts, as we saw it against the Mets, who don't strike out a lot. And we have a history that is killers. So right now, Kyle Hendricks and Alek Manoah look like the 2 stronger plays in my personal opinion, but I do like McClanahan. I do like Brian Bayo. I think they are worth a look further as the day goes on. It's early. I've only been doing research for about an hour now, but I want to get these out before they do bump. I'm sure Prize Picks has completely different numbers. I don't even have the site open. I don't use Prize Picks unless it's a Tuesday or a Friday. There's just no point, as Sleeper has much, much better lines. So last but not least, we're going to look at Aaron Nola. I am very confused about this one, you guys. I'm not sure if anybody in the comment section can maybe explain this line to me, if they understand why it is what it is. So let's look at this and try to figure it out. Aaron Nola. Oh, okay. Well, it moved huge. Okay, it's a little better. So it's minus 160 to the over. Right before I started making this video, he was minus 221 to the over. Like, insane money to the over at 6.5. So I was like, what? So I thought Nola's not been great this year with the strikeouts, and I was right. He's been terrible. He's been absolutely terrible with strikeouts this year. At a 6.5 line, why is there even minus 160 juice, guys? Okay, right-handed pitchers versus Detroit. Let's take a look and let's look into this a little more, because this makes no sense. Why is all the money on the over unless it's just the public is just skewed and thinks that Detroit is a great matchup or something, or they think Nola's been better than he has and they're just not informed? But let's take a look and see. Nola is a righty, I believe, yeah. So righty is first Detroit. Let's see. All right, so they are the 13th highest. Oh, let me get this back to K percentage. I'm sorry. Detroit. Okay, they are the 9th best matchup in the MLB at a 23.8% strikeout rate. So nearing the top of the threshold of like 25, that 20, like we talked, 21 to 25% ish was a pretty common range to be in. So he is definitely Detroit is among the top there at 23.8% so far this year. If we look at what they have been doing recently, let's look at let's refresh this real quick. Did that refresh? Okay, let's look at the last 3 games for Detroit and see. So over the last 3 guys, okay, this makes a little more sense maybe why the juice is what it is. Over the last 3 games, they have been striking out at a 31% strikeout rate almost, guys. The last game struck out at almost 38%. So who did they just get pitched? Who just pitched versus Detroit? Let's take a look. See what happened here last game real quick, because I am very curious what happened yesterday that somebody struck them out at a 40% rate. All right, versus the Sox yesterday. Let's take a look at the box score. Kopech, 9 Ks in 7 innings. So nothing out of either bullpen player. No K. Oh, I'm sorry. 1 and 2 Ks out of the bullpen. So it was just a really strong day by everyone pitching, 2 in 1 inning, 1 in 1 inning, and basically a 1.25 per inning or so. So, man, yeah. They just had not much luck yesterday. They only had 4 hits. I don't see them striking out anywhere near 37% today against Aaron Nola. But in the past, his number is 6.5 today. In the past, he struck them out at 7, 6, and 6. So 2 of those games away. 1 was at home. Let's take a look where Nola is going to be today. He is at home today. So the 1 home game, for what it's worth, he did throw 6, so he's on the wrong side of the hook. Again, it's not a huge deal. He's been right in that area where we need him, which again kind of suggests that the line is really well made at 6.5, but the juice I still am not understanding. What is creating minus 160 to minus 220 like I saw before? Let's look at what DraftKings has for the line for Nola. 165. So the public really likes him apparently today. I'm not sure that I do like an over 6.5 with a pitcher who's been looking like this. Granted, Detroit's strikeout rates have been absurd and absolutely abysmal over the last few games. I want to look at what their season rate was real quick and compare that. Let's go back. I have so many tabs open here. What the hell is it? Okay. So on the season, guys, Detroit striking out, like I said, 23.8%. So they're striking out literally at a 10% higher clip between the last 1 and 3 games. They've been just god awful. Again, Detroit is playing on the road today. On the road, their strikeout percentage is a little higher at 24.9%. So regardless, right in that still 23-24% area, dropping 1 in every 4 players. Say Nola pitches 7 innings most likely, I'd say. I think he's set at 18.5 outs, so they're suggesting 6 to 7. So even if you give him 6 innings and we call it, he faces, like I said earlier, about 25 batters. They're dropping 1 and 4. Let's use 24 batters for easy math. 25% of 24 batters is 6 strikeouts. They got the line at 6.5. I honestly probably would put him on another game at 6 because he's been hitting that 6 number an awful lot. I think this line is right where it should be. I would probably fade personally. I don't think under is smart at this point against a team who's striking out at such high rates, but I also don't like taking it over with the pitcher who has been doing this kind of stuff over the course of the season. So I just thought it was interesting why his juice was where it was, and I didn't really understand it. I wanted to bring it to people's attention to not let anyone who is just one of those people who looks at Vegas lines and bases their bets off Vegas lines be careful with this one. Again, if anyone does know why the juice is where it is, or has a better idea than I do, or sees something that I don't, let me know. But I guess the other quick thing we could do is look at who is playing for Detroit today, what the lineup is going to look like. They don't even have. Let's go to this real quick. Let's take a look at Detroit's starting lineups. McKinstry, Badu, Baez, Torkelson, Matan, Short, Nevin, Riznik. Okay, so I mean, this isn't necessarily their exact starting lineup as of normal. This bottom 4 or so is kind of a little different. So there might be some easy strikeouts in there for what it's worth in this Nevin Short area, Marisnik even. I don't have their player for player strikeouts, their rates off the top of my head or anything, so I don't really know, but those are names that don't pop out as normal starters or people that I am aware of as decent hitters. So again, I don't really have a take on Nola. I just thought it was interesting and was curious why he was where he was. But yeah, outside of that, guys, looks that I had today, I have a lean to the over on Shane McClanahan's 5.5 strikeouts, a lean to the over on Brian Bayo's 4.5 strikeouts. I was looking at Blake Snell earlier. It was kind of neutral, just another one that I thought was worth looking into further. Kyle Hendricks, I do like his over, despite having minimal interest or minimal, minimal history to go off of this year, minimal sample size. The history, lifetime, like career history wise, we saw he has absolutely smashed, 6, like again, we can look at this list right here, absolutely killed them in all but one game. So that's an over that I do like. And then the other over we didn't have pulled up top, but that was the walk prop for Manoah. And again, the reasons why were pretty obvious, why I liked it. Manoah has been walking everybody and lots of them versus almost everybody. So got really 2 plays that I feel good about at this point in time for the day, and will probably be the first 2 onto my slips. But that's what I got for you today, guys. I'm going to work to, again, get myself back into shape for these videos, work them down to a shorter video, more condensed, more efficient. But again, this is the first day back on camera in over a month, and I'm happy to be back providing some info. Again, today's slate, dry, very dry, and very short. Most slates are going to have a lot more plays that are standout and plays that I can be like, hey, slap the over on that one. Hey, slap the under on that one for sure. But today there's not a lot of that. I do feel good about Hendricks. I do feel good about Manoah. Outside of that, everything is pretty leanish, So yeah. If you're tailing today, I wish you the best of luck, and I'll see you guys tomorrow with hopefully a much nicer slate. Until then, best of luck and peace.